Captain Deho stood before the communication panel, knowing that his next words would be heard across the galaxy. Ships from dozens of species floated in space around the Sovereign's wrath, waiting to learn humanity's decision. Would they protect the refugees or surrender them to save themselves? This is Captain Deho of the United Earthship Sovereign's Wrath, broadcasting to all vessels in this system and beyond. His voice was calm and clear. Humanity has come to the stars seeking knowledge, friendship, and peaceful exploration. We did not come to conquer or to rule over others. Supreme Admiral Velthok watched the broadcast from his command ship, surrounded by the massive Grand Armada. 2,000 vessels from 50 different Confederation species filled the space around the system. It was the largest military force assembled in centuries, all focused on a single human ship. However, Deho continued, we will not stand by while innocent beings suffer oppression. Any species, any individual who seeks freedom and protection will find it with humanity. We may be new to this galaxy, but we believe in justice. The refugee ships responded immediately. Captain Namgil of the Corvani vessel sent a message of gratitude. Other alien captains expressed similar emotions in their own languages. For many of these species, it was the first time in generations that anyone had offered them hope. But Deho wasn't finished with his broadcast. To the Confederation, I say this. We seek peace, but we are prepared for war. We offer cooperation, but we will not submit to tyranny. The choice of what happens next is yours. The transmission ended, leaving space eerily quiet. On dozens of ships, beings from hundreds of different species waited to see what would happen next. Commander Boram approached Deho as he stepped away from the communication panel. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Sang-Ho is responding to our earlier transmission. The message from Earth was both encouraging and terrifying. The entire Terran Defense Force was being mobilized and sent toward their location, but it would take months for them to arrive. Until then, the Sovereign's Wrath and its crew stood alone. There's more, sir, Boram continued. Long-range sensors are detecting additional Confederation forces moving toward this system. It looks like they're preparing for a major battle. Engineer Taemin's voice came through the communication system. Captain, I've been working with the refugee ships. Their technology is incredible. If we combine their knowledge with our power systems, we might be able to upgrade their weapons and shields significantly. This gave Deho an idea. How long would you need? Give me 6 hours and I can make those refugee ships 10 times more effective in combat. Meanwhile, throughout Confederation space, the political situation was changing rapidly. On dozens of worlds, oppressed species were rising up against their alien overlords. The news of humanity's defiance had spread like wildfire, inspiring rebellions that had been building for centuries. On the planet Corvex, millions of beings took to the streets demanding independence. On the water world of Nerida, underwater cities declared themselves free from Confederation rule. In the asteroid mines of the Keltari system, slave workers seized control of the mining stations. Supreme Admiral Velthok was receiving reports from across his territory. His communication officers could barely keep up with the flood of emergency messages from Confederation governors and military commanders. Supreme Admiral, we have uprisings on 47 different worlds, reported his aide, a nervous creature with translucent skin. Local forces are requesting immediate military support. Velthok realized that this was no longer just about one human ship. The Confederation's entire system of control was being challenged. If he appeared weak now, the rebellions would spread to every corner of their territory. Send orders to all sector fleets. Suppress the rebellions with maximum force. Show these primitives what happens when they defy the Confederation. But many of his own commanders were beginning to have doubts. They had seen the sensor readings from the human weapons demonstration. Some quietly wondered if the Confederation was making a terrible mistake. Captain Deho was facing his own difficult decisions. The refugee fleet had grown to over 300 ships, carrying millions of beings seeking human protection. His ship was powerful, but could it really protect so many against such overwhelming odds? Dr. Haye-san had been working non-stop treating wounded refugees and helping different species work together. She approached Daeho with a surprising report. "Captain, you need to know something important. These refugee species aren't just running away from oppression. Many of them have military experience fighting the Confederation. They know their enemies' weaknesses." This changed everything. The refugees weren't just civilians seeking protection. They were potential allies with knowledge of Confederation tactics and technology. Science Officer Yoon Seo had been analyzing the Confederation's fleet formations and made her own discovery. "Captain, their Grand Armada looks impressive, but it's not designed for fighting a real war. Most of those ships have never faced serious opposition." The pieces of a plan began forming in Daeho's mind. The Confederation expected him to either surrender or face hopeless odds. They weren't prepared for a third option. "Jinwoo, open a secure channel to all refugee ships. I want to speak with their captains." Within an hour, Daeho was addressing a gathering of alien leaders in the Sovereign's Wrath's main conference hall. Species that had been enemies under Confederation rule now sat together, united by their desire for freedom. "My friends," Daeho began, "we face overwhelming odds, but we are not helpless. Humanity offers you more than just protection. We offer you partnership." Captain Namgil spoke for many when he replied, "Captain, our ships are old and our weapons are weak. How can we stand against the Grand Armada?" Engineer Taemin stepped forward with a smile. "Because we're going to upgrade everything. Human technology combined with your knowledge of Confederation weaknesses. We're going to level the playing field." The next few hours were a frenzy of activity. Human engineering teams worked with alien technicians to install new shields, weapons, and power systems on the refugee vessels. Species that had never trusted each other began sharing tactical information. But the most important development came from an unexpected source. A small Confederation patrol ship approached under a white flag. Its captain was a young officer named Kestal from a species that had been conquered only 50 years earlier. His message was simple. Hundreds of Confederation ships were ready to defect if the humans could guarantee their protection. "Many of us serve the Confederation because we have no choice," Kestal explained. "But if there's a real chance for freedom, we will fight for it." When Supreme Admiral Velthok learned of the potential defections, his rage was terrible to behold. He had spent his entire career maintaining Confederation unity through fear and intimidation. The idea that his own forces might turn against him was unthinkable. "Any ship that attempts to defect will be destroyed immediately," he ordered. "Send that message to all commanders." But the order came too late. When the Grand Armada moved into attack position around the human ship, over 400 vessels suddenly broke formation and joined the refugee fleet. The sight of Confederation ships turning against their own fleet was unprecedented in galactic history. Velthok found himself facing not just one human ship, but a coalition of over 700 vessels united against Confederation rule. For year, the first time in 50,000 years, the Confederation military faced organized resistance. "All ships prepare for battle," Velthok commanded. "We will crush this rebellion and remind the galaxy why the Confederation is supreme." But Captain Daeho had one more surprise. Instead of preparing for battle, he opened another galaxy-wide transmission. "Supreme Admiral Velthok, people of the galaxy, I offer you one final choice. Look around you. See how many have chosen freedom over oppression. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed." The transmission included detailed scans of human space, showing thriving colonies, research stations, and peaceful trade routes. Humanity wasn't interested in conquest or revenge. They wanted to build something better. The Confederation has ruled through fear for thousands of years. But fear is not strength. Unity is strength. Cooperation is strength. Justice is strength. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the transmission. On Confederation worlds, crowds gathered in public spaces to hear the human captain's words. In space, ship crews listened in secret, wondering if change was really possible. The moment stretched into eternity. Two massive fleets faced each other in space, the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Then something extraordinary happened. More Confederation ships began to defect. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Ship captains who had served the Confederation for decades chose freedom over fear. Species that had been enemies for millennia stood together against their common oppressors. Supreme Admiral Velthok watched in horror as his grand armada fell apart around him. Within hours, his overwhelming advantage had become a disadvantage as nearly half his forces joined the rebellion. Faced with potential civil war and the loss of half his fleet, Velthok made the only choice he could. He agreed to a ceasefire and negotiations. Admiral Kijun returned to his flagship in complete silence. His delegation moved like sleepwalkers, each species representative struggling to understand what they had witnessed. The Eternal Dominion felt smaller somehow, less impressive after seeing the inside of the human vessel. On his bridge, Kijun's officers waited for orders. They had watched the demonstration through their ship's sensors and seen the impossible power of the human weapon. Communications Officer Naltek's 6 eyes were wider than usual as he stared at his readings. "Admiral, the energy output from that final weapon was beyond our measurement capabilities," Naltek reported. "Our computers cannot calculate how much power was required." Kijun slumped into his command chair. In his long military career, he had destroyed planets and conquered entire solar systems. He had seen the most advanced weapons in Confederation space. Nothing had prepared him for what the humans possessed. "Send an immediate message to the High Council," Kijun ordered. "Priority Alpha emergency transmission. Tell them we have encountered something unprecedented." Meanwhile, aboard the Sovereign's Wrath, Captain Deho faced his own problems. The weapons demonstration had been necessary, but now the entire galaxy would know about humanity's capabilities. Communications Officer Jinwoo was monitoring dozens of alien transmissions as word spread through Confederation space. "Captain, I'm picking up communications from over 200 different sources," Jinwoo reported. "Some are military channels, others appear to be civilian broadcasts. They're all talking about us." Deho studied the communication patterns on Jinwoo's screens. The messages were spreading outward from this system like ripples on a pond. Within hours, every species in this part of the galaxy would know about humanity. Science Officer Yoon Seo entered the bridge carrying a datapad full of analysis results. She was a quiet woman who preferred studying alien technology to social interaction, but her findings were always valuable. "Captain, I've finished analyzing the Confederation fleet's technology," she said. "Their ships are powerful, but they're designed for intimidation rather than actual warfare. Most of their weapons are meant to disable rather than destroy." "Explain," Deho requested. Yunseo activated the main display, showing technical details of the alien vessels. "They've been conquering primitive species for so long that they've forgotten how to fight real wars. Their shields are weak, their weapons are outdated, and their tactics assume easy victory." Commander Boram joined the conversation. "That makes sense. If you've been bullying weaker species for thousands of years, you don't need to maintain cutting-edge military technology." The implications were disturbing. The Confederation ruled through fear and overwhelming numbers, not superior capability. Humanity had accidentally revealed that they possessed weapons far beyond anything the aliens had faced before. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Confederation fleet," Jinwoo announced. "Admiral Kijun is requesting a private communication channel." "Put him through." Kijun's image appeared on the main screen. The proud alien admiral looked tired and worried. His forearms moved nervously as he spoke. "Captain Deho, I must ask directly, are there more ships like yours?" Deho considered his answer carefully. The truth was that the Sovereign's Wrath was currently humanity's only Titan-class warship, but more were under construction. However, the alien didn't need to know that. "Admiral, humanity builds ships according to our needs. We are explorers and defenders, not conquerors." "That does not answer my question," Kijun pressed. "It answers it perfectly. We have what we need to protect ourselves and help others." Before Kijun could respond, alarms began sounding on both ships. New contacts were appearing on sensors, approaching the system at high speed. Jinwoo worked frantically at his communication station. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple small vessels approaching from different directions. They're broadcasting on emergency frequencies." The first ship to arrive was tiny compared to either the human vessel or the Confederation fleet. It was clearly damaged, with scorch marks along its hull and one engine completely destroyed. As it limped closer, its desperate transmission became clear. "This is Captain Namgil of the Corvani vessel Dawn's Hope. We request sanctuary from Confederation oppression. We know the humans have shown their strength. Please, we seek your protection." More ships began arriving hourly. Some were single vessels like the Corvani ship, carrying refugees fleeing Confederation rule. Others came in small groups representing entire species that had heard about humanity's power and wanted to escape their alien overlords. The situation became more complicated as other types of ships arrived. Confederation loyalist vessels appeared, demanding that the humans surrender the refugees. Neutral species sent diplomatic ships, hoping to establish contact with this new power in the galaxy. Dr. Hai-sun found herself overwhelmed as different alien species requested medical assistance, food, or simply a safe place to rest. The Sovereign's Wrath's medical bays were designed for human needs, but she adapted quickly to treat species with completely different biology. "Captain, we have 47 different alien vessels in the area now," Bo-Rem reported. 17 are refugee ships seeking protection, 12 are Confederation ships demanding we surrender the refugees, and 18 are from neutral species wanting to establish diplomatic contact. Daeho stood in his ready room, looking out at the collection of ships that had gathered around his vessel. Each one represented thousands or millions of beings, whose lives might change based on his decisions. Over the next few hours, Engineer Taemin had been busy, helping the refugee ships repair their damaged systems. His engineering teams worked around the clock, sharing human technology and knowledge with species that had never seen such advanced equipment. "Captain, you need to see this," Taemin said over the communication system. "Some of these refugee ships are using technology I've never encountered before. Their engines are completely different from ours, but incredibly efficient. The refugees weren't just seeking protection, they were bringing knowledge and technology that could benefit humanity in return. Several species had scientific advances that complemented human discoveries. Others had cultural knowledge that could help humans understand the complex politics of galactic civilization. But the most important visitor was yet to arrive. A massive ship appeared at the edge of the system, larger than anything seen so far. It was clearly Confederation military, but carried the markings of the High Council itself. Supreme Admiral Velthok had come personally to deal with the human situation. "Captain, incoming priority transmission from the new arrival," Jinwoo announced. The sender identifies himself as Supreme Admiral Velthok, Supreme Commander of Confederation military forces. The image that appeared on screen was intimidating. Velthok was enormous even by alien standards, with dark purple skin covered in natural armor plates. His species was clearly evolved from predators with sharp teeth and claws that gleamed in the light. "Human vessel, I am Velthok. I command the Grand Armada of the Confederation. You will immediately surrender all refugee vessels to Confederation authority and submit your ship for inspection." Daeho had expected this moment. The demonstration of human power had forced the Confederation's hand. They couldn't allow their authority to be challenged, especially not by a single ship from an unknown species. "Supreme Admiral, I am Captain Daeho. These refugees have requested our protection, and we have granted it. We seek peaceful relations with the Confederation, but we will not surrender beings who have asked for our help." Velthok's predatory features twisted into what might have been a smile. "You speak boldly for the captain of a single vessel. I bring with me the Grand Armada. 2,000 ships from 50 different species. Your demonstration impressed Admiral Ki-jun, but numbers matter more than individual power." The threat was clear. Despite humanity's superior weapons, the Confederation could overwhelm the Sovereign's wrath through sheer numbers. Daeho had to make a choice that would determine not only his crew's fate, but possibly the future of human expansion into space. "Supreme Admiral, you may have superior numbers, but you should consider the consequences of your actions carefully. My government on Earth is aware of our situation. If you destroy this ship, humanity will respond accordingly. It was a bluff, but a necessary one. Earth was months away from this system, and the Sovereign's wrath was currently humanity's only representative in alien space." Velthok leaned forward, his claws scraping against his command chair. "We shall see, human. You have 1 day to surrender the refugees and submit to Confederation authority. If you refuse, the Grand Armada will demonstrate why the Confederation has ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Around the Sovereign's wrath, dozens of refugee ships waited to see if humanity would protect them or surrender them to save themselves. Daeho looked at his officers. each one ready to follow his orders regardless of the consequences. Outside, the stars seemed dimmer somehow, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath to see what would happen next. Jinwoo, open a channel to all vessels in the system, Daeho ordered. It's time to tell the galaxy where humanity stands. Admiral Ki-jun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall even for his species, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms that moved with practiced grace. His uniform displayed the symbols of his rank and the dozens of worlds he had conquered for the Confederation. This should be another easy victory. The human ship floated in space before his fleet like a metal island. Ki-jun had seen thousands of different vessels from hundreds of species, but this one was different. It was built for war, that much was clear, but it was also impossibly large. Most species built defensive platforms when they first encountered the Confederation. This looked like something designed to attack. Communications Officer Naltek, have they responded to our final demand? Ki-jun asked. Naltek, a thin creature with 6 eyes, worked at his station. Yes, Admiral. The human captain insists on diplomatic contact. He uses words like peace and cooperation. Ki-jun made a sound that was laughter in his species. Peace. They always talk about peace when they see our fleet. Very well. We will board their ship and examine their technology before we take it apart. The other officers on his bridge nodded in agreement. This was how it always worked. The Confederation would arrive, demand surrender, and within hours have another species begging to join them. It had been this way for thousands of years. Prepare a boarding party. I will lead it personally, Ki-jun decided. Bring representatives from 12 different species. Let these humans see the power of our alliance. Meanwhile, aboard the Sovereign's Wrath, Captain Daeho was preparing for the most important meeting in human history. He stood in his ready room adjusting his dress uniform. The blue and silver fabric was perfectly pressed with medals and rank insignia polished to shine. Commander Boram entered, also wearing her best uniform. Captain, the alien delegation is requesting permission to board. They want to bring 12 different representatives. Grant permission. Have them dock in Base 7. It's large enough for their shuttle and impressive enough to make a statement. Daeho straightened his collar. Alert Dr. Hysun to prepare medical scanners. We need to know what we're dealing with. Already done, sir. She's standing by with full environmental suits and universal translators. As they walked toward the docking bay, Daeho looked around his ship with new eyes. The corridors were wide and clean, with gentle lighting and artwork from Earth. Crew members moved about their duties, some nodding respectfully as their captain passed. They passed through several different sections of the ship. There was the hydroponics district, where farmers grew food under artificial suns. Children played in a park area while their parents worked nearby. A school was in session, with young voices reciting lessons about mathematics and history. Do you think they expected this? Boram asked quietly. No species builds a ship like this unless they plan to live on it for years, Daeho replied. Most warships are built to fight and return home quickly. The Sovereign's Wrath was built to carry human civilization to the stars. They reached the docking bay just as the alien shuttle arrived. It was sleek and organic looking, like everything else in their fleet. The shuttle attached to the docking tube with soft mechanical sounds. Dr. Hysun was waiting with her team, medical scanners ready. She was a calm woman in her 40s who had volunteered to serve aboard the ship to study alien life. Today, her dream was coming true. The airlock opened and the alien delegation stepped through. Daeho tried not to show his amazement. There were indeed 12 different species, each stranger than the last. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. Some had fur, others had scales or smooth skin. A few didn't look like anything from Earth at all. Admiral Ki-jun stepped forward first. He was clearly the leader, wearing elaborate armor and moving with authority. When he spoke, the universal translator turned his words into clear English. I am Admiral Ki-jun of the Valak Confederation. You will surrender your vessel and submit to examination. Daeho stepped forward and gave a slight bow, a gesture of respect from human culture. I am Captain Daeho, commanding officer of this vessel. Welcome aboard the Sovereign's Wrath. We are honored by your visit and hope to establish peaceful relations between our peoples. Ki-jun looked confused by the formal greeting. Most species either cowered in fear or attacked desperately when faced with Confederation power. This human seemed genuinely pleased to meet them. We do not establish relations with primitive species. You will join the Confederation or be destroyed. First, we will examine your war construct. Daeho gestured toward the corridor leading deeper into the ship. Please allow me to show you our home. As they walked, the alien delegation's confusion grew. They passed through district after district of the massive ship. The manufacturing centers where humans built everything from tools to clothing. The medical bays with the most advanced equipment Earth could produce. The recreational areas where families spent time together. One of the aliens, a creature that looked like a walking tree, spoke to Ki-jun in their own language. The translator didn't pick up the private conversation, but Daeho could see they were discussing what they had seen. Your war construct carries civilians, Ki-jun said, making it sound like an accusation. The Sovereign's wrath is our home as well as our protection, Daeho explained. We believe that the best way to explore the galaxy is to bring our families and our culture with us. They reached the main conference hall, a large room with a long table and chairs for 30 people. The walls were decorated with paintings of Earth's landscapes and images of human achievements in space. At the head of the room was a large display showing the current star map. Engineer Tae-min was waiting with a presentation about the ship's capabilities. He was excited to show off his life's work to aliens who might appreciate the engineering involved. This ship has 3 main reactor cores, Tae-min began, bringing up images on the wall display. Each one can power a small planet. We also have backup systems and emergency power that can keep us running for months. The aliens looked at each other with expressions that the humans couldn't read, but their body language suggested surprise or concern. Ki-jun interrupted the presentation. Why do you need such power for exploration? Bo-ram answered before Daeho could speak. Because space is dangerous. We built the Sovereign's wrath to protect ourselves and to help others if needed. We carry enough firepower to defend against any threat. The word any seemed to catch Ki-jun's attention. He had conquered species with entire fleets smaller than this single ship. The idea that one vessel might pose a real threat was new to him. You make claims about your weapons, Ki-jun said, his voice becoming harder. The Confederation has faced many species who boasted of their power. All of them learned the truth. Daeho sensed the change in mood. The aliens were no longer curious visitors. They were becoming threatening. We do not boast, Daeho said calmly. We simply state facts. We came here in peace and we hope to leave in peace. But if you force us to defend ourselves, we are prepared to do so. Ki-jun stood up, his forearms spreading wide in what was clearly a threatening gesture. You dare threaten the Confederation? We have crushed entire worlds that defied us. The other human officers tensed, ready for action. Dr. Hai-sun quietly moved toward the door, preparing to alert security if needed. Daeho remained seated, projecting calm confidence. Admiral, we threaten no one, but we will not surrender to anyone either. If you wish to see our capabilities, we will gladly provide a demonstration. Ki-jun's eyes narrowed. In his experience, species only offered demonstrations when they were desperate or bluffing. He had never encountered a species confident enough to show their weapons to a superior force. Very well, human. Show us your power. When we see how weak you truly are, your surrender will follow quickly. Daeho stood and walked to the conference room's communication panel. All stations prepare for weapons demonstration. Target the dead moon in grid 77 Alpha. He turned back to Ki-jun with a slight smile. Admiral, I suggest your fleet maintain a safe distance. What you are about to see will change how you think about humanity forever. The alien delegation was escorted to the observation deck, a massive viewing area with transparent walls that gave a perfect view of space. Admiral Ki-jun and his 11 companions stood in silence, watching the dead moon that hung in the darkness like a gray stone. It was roughly the size of Earth's moon, scarred with craters from millions of years of asteroid impacts. Captain Daeho joined them, along with Commander Bo-ram and the senior officers. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. The aliens whispered among themselves in their various languages, clearly expecting to see some primitive display of human technology. That moon has been dead for 4 billion years, Daeho said quietly. No life, no atmosphere, nothing but rock and metal. It will serve perfectly for our demonstration. Ki-jun crossed his forearms and made a dismissive sound. We have seen planetary bombardments before, human. Every species thinks their weapons are impressive until they face Confederation power. On the bridge, Tactical Officer Yoon-ji was running final calculations at her station. Her screens showed the exact distance to the target, wind patterns in the local solar system, and the position of every ship in both fleets. She had trained for moments like this her entire career, but had never imagined the target would be a demonstration rather than an enemy. All weapon systems online and ready, she reported through the communication system. Target locked and confirmed. Engineer Tyman's voice came from deep in the ship's core. Captain, reactor cores 1 and 2 are at full power. Core 3 is standing by for primary weapon systems. All safety protocols are active. Deho activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to conduct a weapons demonstration for our alien visitors. This is not a drill, but there is no immediate danger to the ship. Maintain your positions and observe proper safety procedures. Throughout the massive vessel, 15,000 crew members stopped what they were doing to watch. In the hydroponics bays, farmers paused their work. In the schools, teachers gathered children at the windows. In the engineering decks, technicians monitored their instruments with unusual care. We will begin with our standard plasma lance arrays, Deho announced. These are our most basic ship-to-ship weapons. 12 points of light appeared along the Sovereign's Wrath's hull. They glowed brighter and brighter until they were like small stars attached to the ship. Then, without warning, 12 beams of pure energy lanced out across space toward the dead moon. The beams struck the lunar surface with incredible precision. Where they hit, the rock didn't just explode or melt. It simply vanished, leaving perfectly round holes that glowed with heat. The plasma lances carved through the moon like hot knives through ice, creating tunnels that went completely through from one side to the other. The alien delegation pressed against the viewing windows, their various eyes wide with surprise. This was not what they had expected from a primitive species. The precision and power were far beyond what most Confederation members could achieve. Impressive, Ki-Jun admitted grudgingly. But we have seen energy weapons before. Deho nodded to Boram, who activated the next phase of the demonstration. Now we will show you our quantum torpedoes. These weapons phase through shields and armor before detonating. 6 torpedo tubes opened along the ship's sides. The torpedoes that emerged looked like silver fish swimming through space. They moved with impossible grace, bending and turning as they flew toward the moon. Just before impact, they seemed to fade from view, becoming ghostly and transparent. The torpedoes passed through the moon's surface without leaving any visible holes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire moon began to glow from within. Perfect spherical caverns appeared inside the celestial body, visible through the holes the plasma lances had already made. The quantum torpedoes had detonated inside the moon itself, creating hollow spaces where solid rock had been moments before. One of the alien delegates, a creature that looked like a giant insect, spoke rapidly to Ki-Jun in its own language. The universal translator couldn't keep up with the speed of the conversation, but the tone was clearly one of concern. Your weapons are unusual, Ki-Jun said, his voice less confident than before. But destruction is destruction. The Confederation has faced many different technologies. Yunji's voice came through the communication system. Captain, graviton pulse cannons are charged and ready, targeting the moon's northern hemisphere. Proceed with demonstration, Deho ordered. The graviton pulse cannons were invisible to the naked eye, but their effects were immediately apparent. The northern half of the moon began to compress as if an invisible giant hand was squeezing it. The rock folded in on itself, creating impossible geometric patterns as gravity itself was used as a weapon. Within seconds, the northern hemisphere had been compressed into a dense ball of matter, no larger than a city block. The southern hemisphere remained untouched, creating a bizarre sight of half a moon attached to a tiny sphere of supercompressed rock. The alien delegation was no longer whispering among themselves. They stood in complete silence, watching the impossible display of power. Several species in the Confederation had gravity manipulation technology, but nothing on this scale or with this precision. Dr. Heeson, who had been quietly observing the aliens' reactions, noticed that some of them were showing signs of fear. Their body languages, despite being completely different species, all showed the universal signs of creatures realizing they were in serious danger. Admiral Ki-Jun, Deho said calmly, we have shown you 3 of our weapon systems. We have many others, but I believe you understand our capabilities now. Ki-Jun's blue-gray skin had taken on a paler shade. You have adequate weapons for a primitive species, but numbers matter more than individual power. We have 57 ships to your 1. Boram stepped forward. Would you like to see our primary weapon system? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Kijun looked at his companions, then back at the partially destroyed moon. In his thousands of years of service to the Confederation, he had never seen weapons that could manipulate matter and gravity with such ease. "Show us," he said quietly. Deho activated the ship communication again. "Taman, bring Reactor Core 3 online. Prepare the Harbinger cannon for full power demonstration." Deep in the ship's core, Engineer Taman began the most complex procedure in human military technology. The Harbinger cannon was humanity's ultimate weapon, designed to destroy entire enemy fleets with a single shot. It had never been fired except during testing in empty space far from Earth. "Harbinger cannon powering up," Taman reported. "All 3 reactor cores now feeding power to the primary weapon system." 30 seconds to full charge. The Sovereign's wrath began to change. Along its hull, panels slid open to reveal the barrel of a weapon that ran nearly the entire length of the ship. Energy began to gather at its tip, starting as a small point of light and growing brighter with each passing second. The alien ships in the surrounding fleet began to move nervously. Their sensors were detecting power levels that shouldn't be possible from a single vessel. Admiral Kijun received urgent communications from his ship commanders, all asking the same question. What were the humans preparing to do? 20 seconds to full charge, Taman announced. Power levels at 60% and rising. The point of light at the cannon's tip was now like a small star. The energy it contained made the space around it shimmer and bend. Even the viewing deck's protective windows automatically darkened to protect the observer's eyes. 10 seconds to full charge. All personnel brace for weapon discharge. Kijun grabbed the railing of the observation deck. He had seen planet-killing weapons before, but never one that generated this much visible energy. The power readings his ship was detecting were beyond anything in Confederation records. Full charge achieved. Harbinger cannon ready to fire. Deho looked at Kijun one last time. "Admiral, this is humanity's ultimate weapon. What you're about to see represents the full defensive capability of our species." He pressed a button on the wall panel. The Harbinger cannon fired. The beam that emerged was not just light, but concentrated antimatter contained within a magnetic field. It crossed the space between the ship and the moon in less than a second. When it struck, it didn't destroy the remaining half of the moon. It erased it. The antimatter beam broke down the molecular bonds of everything it touched. The moon didn't explode into fragments or melt into plasma. It simply ceased to exist, converted into pure energy that dispersed harmlessly into space. Where a celestial body had hung moments before, there was now nothing but empty space and a slowly fading cloud of particles. The observation deck was silent except for the sound of various alien breathing patterns. Kijun stared at the empty space where the moon had been, his mind struggling to process what he had witnessed. That moon was 4 billion years old, Deho said quietly. It survived the formation of this solar system, countless asteroid impacts, and the death of nearby stars. It took 30 seconds for us to make it disappear completely. Kijun turned to look at the human captain. For the first time in his military career, he was facing something that terrified him. The Confederation had never encountered a species capable of such focused destruction. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign's Wrath, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship moved through space like a metal mountain, 15 kilometers of pure human engineering. Its hull gleamed silver under the distant light of nearby stars. This was humanity's greatest creation, and Deho was proud to command it. The bridge buzzed with quiet activity. Officers worked at their stations, monitoring systems and checking readings. Everything was peaceful, just another day on patrol near the edge of human space. Deho had been doing this for 3 years now, ever since the ship launched. Most days were boring, which was exactly how he liked it. Commander Boram walked up to him holding a datapad. She was shorter than Deho, but carried herself with confidence. Her uniform was always perfect, and her black hair was pulled back in a neat style. Boram had been his second in command since the beginning. "Captain, we're approaching the outer marker of Sector 7, she said. "All systems are running normally. The patrol route should take us another 6 hours to complete." Deho nodded. "Good. Any word from Earth Command?" "Nothing urgent. Just the usual reports and supply requests from the colonies." Boram paused and looked around the bridge. "It's been quiet out here lately. Maybe too quiet." Before Deho could answer, a voice called out from across the bridge. It was Jin Wu, their communications officer. He was young but very skilled with languages and technology. His station was covered with screens showing different communication channels. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Jinwoo said, his voice tense. "There are energy readings coming from deep space." "They're big, sir. Really big." Daeho and Boram quickly moved to Jinwoo's station. The screens showed waves of energy moving through space toward them. The readings were unlike anything in their databases. "How many ships?" Daeho asked. Jinwoo worked his controls, trying to get clearer readings. "I count at least 50, maybe more. They're still too far away to see clearly, but they're definitely heading our way." Yoonji, the tactical officer, looked up from her station. She was known for staying calm under pressure, but even she looked concerned. "Captain, these energy signatures are massive. Each one is bigger than our largest battleships." Daeho felt his heart rate increase. This was what every human captain feared and hoped for at the same time. First contact with alien life. All their training had prepared them for this moment, but theory was different from reality. "Red alert," Daeho ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Bring us to full combat readiness, but keep weapons powered down. We don't want to appear threatening." The bridge lights dimmed to red, and alarms sounded throughout the massive ship. 15,000 crew members moved to their positions. The Sovereign's Wrath was not just a warship, but a floating city. It had families living aboard, schools for children, and entire districts for different functions. Taiman's voice came through the communication system from engineering. He was the chief engineer and treated the ship like his own child. "Captain, all 3 reactor cores are online and stable. We have full power available if you need it." "Thank you, Taiman. Keep everything ready, but don't make any aggressive moves." The unknown ships grew closer. On the main screen, Daeho could see them now. They were beautiful in a strange way, with smooth curves and organic shapes. They looked more grown than built, like giant sea creatures swimming through space. Their hulls glowed with soft light, and they moved in perfect formation. 57 ships confirmed, Yoonji reported. The largest one is about 8 kilometers long. They're arranging themselves in a battle formation around us. Jinwoo suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, they're transmitting. It's in several human languages, but the grammar is wrong." "Put it on speakers," Daeho ordered. A deep voice filled the bridge. The words were human, but the accent was completely alien. "Small war construct of primitive species. You will surrender immediately. Your vessel will be examined. Your crew will submit to Confederation authority. Resistance will result in destruction." The bridge fell silent. Boram moved closer to Daeho. "Confederation? They seem to think we're some kind of minor threat." Daeho studied the alien formation on his screens. The ships were powerful, but their arrangement showed they expected easy victory. They had probably done this many times before with other species. "Jinwoo, can you establish two-way communication?" "Yes, sir. Their technology is compatible with ours." Daeho straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. "This is Captain Daeho of the United Earthship Sovereign's Wrath. We come in peace. We wish to establish diplomatic relations with your people." The response came quickly. "You are captain of war construct. Peace is not possible with weapons. You will power down all systems and prepare for boarding. This is final warning." Yoonji checked her tactical display. "Captain, they're charging their weapons. All 57 ships are targeting us." Daeho looked around his bridge at his crew. These were good people, trained professionals who trusted him to make the right decisions. Behind them, throughout the ship, thousands more depended on his choices. "Jinwoo, record a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have made first contact with a hostile alien confederation. Send our current position and all sensor data about these ships." "Recording, sir." Daeho thought carefully about his next words. This message might be the last thing Earth heard from them. "Tell them that humanity is not alone in the universe. Tell them that we tried peace first, but these aliens only understand strength. Tell them to prepare." The alien voice came again, more impatient this time. "You delay? This shows guilt. Prepare for immediate surrender or face destruction." Boram stepped forward. "Captain, we could try to run. The Sovereign's Wrath is faster than most ships." "No," Daeho said firmly. "If we run, they'll follow us home. Better to face them here, in empty space, than lead them to our colonies." He looked at the alien ships surrounding them. They were impressive, but Daeho had seen the Sovereign's Wrath's full capabilities during testing. These aliens had no idea what they were facing. "Jinwoo, open a channel again." "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Daeho. We are peaceful explorers, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. I offer you one final chance to withdraw and establish proper diplomatic contact." The alien response was immediate and angry. Primitive species shows arrogance. You face the might of Valak Confederation. 400 species bow before us. You will join them or die. Deho closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with new determination. Battle stations. All crew prepare for combat. We tried peace. Now we show them what humans are capable of. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. On the screens, the alien ships moved into final attack positions. In a few moments, the first battle between humanity and alien life would begin. Neither side knew that this encounter would change the galaxy forever.